Get rid of this stuff. All right, I want you to turn in your Bible to two places. I want you to go to 2 Samuel, chapter 24. That's where the first, this message has 2 points. And the first one is in 2 Samuel 24, and then in another hour we'll be going to the second point. And that'll be Daniel chapter 1. So the first point will be 2 Samuel chapter 24. And then we will be going to Daniel chapter 1. Now, one thing that I tell folks about our country, you know, we do 2 years East Mississippi, 2 years West Mississippi. And one of the differences between the East and the West, I point out to people that the West has beautiful places and the East has points of interest. So what do you mean? How about the USS Constitution? We have been on the decks of the USS Constitution. The West doesn't have that, okay? If you ever go on the USS Constitution, those guys that are dressed like period sailors of 1776 are in the Navy. They are not, you know how you go to these villages and people dress like in period clothing. That's not citizens doing that. They are the only sailors in the Navy who have permission to wear a uniform other than an issue uniform of the U.S. Navy. Because the USS Constitution is still a commissioned Navy vessel. And so it's good. If you guys haven't been, you ought to go there. We have been on the bridge in Lexington, where the first shot was fired to birth this nation. And so we've been to Plymouth Rock. So we have the points of interest. The West, well, let me just say it this way. The East doesn't have a Yellowstone. The East doesn't have Yosemite or Sequoia or Zion National Park or Bryce National Park. So the East has these beautiful, or the West has these beautiful places, and the East has these points of interest. But in the West, there is, all I can call it is a point of interest. And if you ever go west and you get to Texas, you ought to go there. You know about it. It's called the Alamo. It is one of the most moving places you'll ever visit. I don't know if you realize this, but the Americas, or Texians is what they called them. Texas at that time, 1835, Texas was part of Mexico. And the Mexican government began to really oppress the Texians and tax them, and I think they allowed weird marriages. But anyway, and so the Texians, they revolted against that. I don't know if you realize this, but the Texians took the Alamo twice. The Mexicans were in it, and the Texans ran them out, and then the Mexicans came back, they ran them out again. And so it's the second battle of the Alamo that we know so much about. And the force at the Alamo was run by a guy named Colonel Travis. Travis was a colonel in the Texas Army, and he had about 180 men. Now, don't come up and tell me you read a source that had 186, 182. I can show you 4 different sources and 4 different numbers. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it, okay? 180. But they took the Alamo. Now, it used to be outside of town. If you go down to it now, it's in the heart of San Antonio, Texas. And so they had the Alamo, and Santa Anna was determined to wipe this revolution out. And so he marched on the Alamo and 180 men with 5,000 professional Mexican troops. By the time the siege was over, he had increased that to 10,000 men. So these guys were as a 10-to-1, easy 10-to-1 odds against him. But not only that, but Santa Anna was already flying the red banner. The red banner meant that there would be no quarter given. If you said, okay, we've had enough, once the battle was engaged, once it was started, if they surrendered before it started, they could go. But once the battle started, if you surrendered, you died. I don't know if you realize this, but not everybody of those defenders of the Alamo, they didn't go until there was one last guy alive and he got shot and killed. Several of them survived and were killed by Santa Anna, by the Mexican troops, because there was no quarter given. Well, Travis put out the word. He sent letters to Sam Houston, to Stephen Austin, and to Colonel Fannin, who was in Goliad. And he said, somebody send us some reinforcements, told him that Santa Anna's marching on the Alamo. Sam Houston and Stephen Austin didn't send him any troops for one simple reason. They didn't have any. Sam Houston, who was really the military leader, he hadn't gotten his army together to where he really had enough to go relieve him. In Goliad, Fannin, who was pretty much a man who thought the world revolved around him, started for the Alamo, turned around and went back just to leave these guys at their fate. So when word comes 1, 2, 3 that none of these guys are sending help, Travis could, he didn't have to be a prophet to figure out how this thing was going to end. And so he called his men out. Now he's standing out in front of the Alamo with the Alamo behind him. He's got 179 men. And he says, men, he said, as I speak to you guys, you are aware that Santa Anna is marching on us with 5,000 men, and he is flying the banner of no quarter given. None of us will survive if he attacks. And I've sent to Austin and Houston and Fannin for some help, and no help. We will get no relief and no reinforcements. And so I think our fate is pretty much sealed. But he said, my duty is to defend the Alamo. And he said, I am not going to ask you to die. So he said, if you leave today, you are dismissed. You can go. You'll not be a coward. You're not a deserter. You are free to go. And then he walked to the end of these 175 men. He took the sword out of his scabbard. He put the tip of it down that Texas soil, and dragging the tip of that across that Texas ground, he drew, as he walked all the way down the line, he drew what became known in history, famous as the line in the sand. If you ever hear anybody say he's drawn a line in the sand, it was Colonel Travis that did that. And he said, men, I am going back into the Alamo and fulfill my duty. You are all free to go. But any man who wants to help me and step across this line. Now, let me interject something to the 20 and 30-something, especially guys. I got a smartphone, and it ain't that smart. It isn't. I am smarter than my phone. You ever hear anybody say, my phone's smarter than me? I'm smarter than my phone. I really am. You know how I know? I'll turn it on, and it'll say, you are 25 miles from home. I go, ain't got a home, you stupid phone. So I know. But I got a smartphone, all that stuff, and it does some things for me. But I'm afraid, guys, I'm afraid that we've got a generation or two here that can't make a decision independent of their peers. It's like you guys come up, everyone wants to be, I'm the rugged individual. Don't you think so? Everybody wants to be known as an individual, and they all want to look alike. All the individuals look alike, They all have the same flat hat, and it's on sideways, and they show this much of their underwear. I mean, they all look alike. And, you guys, I don't know if you can make a decision. I saw this, a young guy, he's in his 30s, and he had to get new glasses. Anybody ever here have to get new glasses? He said, he had this on the internet. He said, I have to get new glasses. I have attached 4 pictures of me in 4 different frames. Tell me what you think looks best. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You mean to tell me you are either so vain or so insecure that you can't go and buy glasses? I think some of you guys, before you make any decision, you've got to get the consensus. I have a decision to make. What do you guys think I should do? Oh, okay. I'm ready. I'll have the caramel macchiato. You can't make a decision. We have a consensus. Let me help you. You can make a call without a phone. You turn the phone off and make a call. So how do you do that? Make a call. It's called a judgment call. What if I'm wrong? Join the club. Everybody's wrong at some time, okay? And what amazes me is here's 179 guys. Could you imagine if that happened today? I mean, here'd be 179 of them, and they'd be going, 5 people down the line. Are you stepping across? I'll step across if he down at the end of the line. Are you going to step across? Well, all right, let's, on 3, we'll all step across at the same time. Yeah. How did these guys come up with something? Listen, nobody said anything. Nobody said, are you going? I'll go if you go. Nobody did. 179 men in lockstep stepped across that line and into the history that changed Texas and the United States and the world. You say, how did those guys change the world? Let me tell you how they did it. For 11 days, they held against Santa Anna. On the 12th day, Santa Anna overwhelmed the Alamo, killed every man that was there. You say, well, see, they didn't do anything. Oh, yes, they did, because in that 11 days, Sam Houston got his army ready. He met Santa Anna at the Battle of San Jacinto and won. Had they not held them for 11 days, he'd have never got his army together. Texas lost just about every battle of the Texas Revolution except the last one. And he defeated Santa Anna at the Battle of San Jacinto in 1835. Texas became an independent republic, which, by the way, is the only second state. There was another state, believe it or not, that was an independent republic for not 11 years, but 14 years. Vermont, check its history. And so after 11 years, then in 1846, they became a state. Had they lost Texas, had Texas lost and been stayed in Mexico, this nation never would have been the country it was. Some other territories never would have gotten in because we got a lot of territory from that. So the United States never would have been the force that it was, and we just might be speaking German or Japanese. You say, what changed it? 11 days in Texas. And what Travis did is he drew that line. Now, I'm going to talk to you tonight about two lines, okay? Because some of you, I think, are drawing a line where you should not. There are sometimes you just need to cross a line. You really do. And then I think some of you aren't drawing a line where you need to. And so the first one, I want to talk to you about where you need to step over the line. Look at 2 Samuel chapter 24. And in 2 Samuel chapter 24, now if you don't know what's going on in 2 Samuel chapter 24, there's a plague. A horrible plague. I mean 3 days worth of a plague. 3 days worth of a plague in a little country, about 3 million people, and 70,000 people died. Guys, I always marvel at the terrorists, the greatest terrorists in history. You say, oh, ISIS? No. Oh, you mean the guys on 9/11? No. Guys, if the goal of a terrorist organization is to instill fear and terror, then the greatest terrorists in the country, in the world, are the news media. Because they've instilled more fear in you than anybody. But you're going, I'm afraid of the bird flu. What will happen if we all get the bird flu? Yeah. You know what the bird flu did? In 3 years, it killed 140 people around the world. 140 people in 8 billion. Wow, how are we ever going to stop this? Think about this, guys. The normal, everyday flu that seems to always come from Hong Kong kills 33,000 people average a year in this country alone. But 33,000 people can die in this country, and you may never know one of them. Twice that many died here in a nation of about 3 million people. There was either not a family unaffected, either they had somebody die, or knew someone who died. This is a tragedy. David is the king. He wants this plague to stop. So it says this in verse 18, and Gad came that day to David and said unto him, go up, rear an altar unto the Lord in the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. And David, according to the saying of Gad, went up as the Lord commanded. And Araunah looked and saw the king and his servants coming on toward him. And Araunah went out and bowed himself before the king on his face upon the ground. And Araunah said, wherefore is my lord the king come to his servant? And David said, to buy the threshing floor of thee, to build an altar unto the Lord, that the plague may be stayed from the people. And Araunah said unto David, let my lord the king take and offer up what seemeth good unto him. Behold, here be oxen for burnt sacrifice, and threshing instruments, and other instruments of the oxen for wood. Now guys, look for just a moment. I use the King James Bible. Never use anything else, never look at anything else, never study anything else. I don't modernize anything, I don't update anything, but I am going to update verse 22. You know why? Because I told you the other day, when you read your Bible, you need to get out of your chair and out of your living room and out of your house and enter the picture of what you're seeing. Now, I don't know anything about farming, especially with an ox, but here is how it used to be. It used to be that a man had a one-bottom wooden plow. And can you imagine pushing your rototiller without starting it? That's kind of how they plowed. They pushed it, or dad hitched up to it, and mom or one of the kids steadied it, and the old man pulled it, all right? So you can understand, if that's how you plowed your field, the day you got an ox, that's like buying a John Deere or a John Ox. But, and I am told this, if you had 2 oxen, if you had a yoke of oxen, you were a high dollar farmer. You were a rich farmer. I'm told this, 3, 4, 6 yoke, or 3 yoke of oxen, 6 oxen won't do any more work than 2 will. If a guy had 3 yoke of oxen, he didn't hook all 6 up. He hooked up 2 and worked until they were done, then hooked up 2 more and worked them till they were done and hooked up 2 more. He didn't hook up all 6 at one time. 2 were enough. So if having 2 oxen make you a rich farmer, this guy is a rich farmer. So I am going to update verse 22. Bear with me as I read it. Let's look at it again. And Araunah said unto David, Let my lord the king take and offer what seemeth good unto him. Behold, here is my John Deere articulated tractor. Burn that. And here's my combine, and my baler, and my manure spreader, and my cultivator, and my fertilizer sprayer. Burn it all. You say, oh, it's not what he said. That's exactly what he said. Do you understand what this guy did? You say, oh yeah, he gave his oxen and his implements. That was his life. He gave his life. Guys, I was in Kansas, and I was in this church in Kansas, and there was a cattle rancher there, and he had one of them big John Deere tractors. I mean, you're so up there, you have to have a pilot's license to drive it. And he said, you want to drive it? Hey guys, if this guy, look, I'm sorry, unless someone out and sneaks out there and does it, you will never see a bumper sticker on the back of my car that says I'd rather be sailing. I am not interested in whoosh. That does nothing for me. I want, that's what I want. I want to burn dead dinosaurs. I want it to have a lot of power. And he said, you want to drive this John Deere? I said, oh yeah, I do. Yeah, let me drive it. So we get up in this cab of this thing, and this guy, his plow was like a triangle. It was up. It was 12 bottom across the center. When he lowered the outriggers, he was plowing in another state. So we get out on the field, and I'm driving this thing, and he drops this about 4 or 5 inches into that Kansas soil. And man, 12 rows, just like waves in the ocean, are just spinning over there like artwork. And then he said this. He didn't tell me what he was going to do. But he said, now watch this. And he grabbed the hydraulic control for that plow, and he went like that, and he dropped that thing about 11 inches into the ground. He got down where it had never been turned over before. And for a fleeting second, that John Deere hesitated. But I told you the other day, before there was ever a Tim Allen, there was a Sam Gipp saying more power. And I just naturally knew what to do. I grabbed the throttle. I cranked that thing open. It belched out this big black puff of smoke. And I can't prove this, but I think we turned the world backwards. You know where the Bible says the sun went 10 degrees? Somewhere I think somebody had a John Deere. Guys, what I'm telling you is that this man was giving away. See, you look at that because oxen mean nothing to us. I mean, if a guy was plowing today with a couple of oxen and a wooden plow, you'd go, what a poor farmer. This was a rich farmer, and he gave away his entire life. Verse 23, all these things did Araunah as a king give unto the king. And Araunah said unto the king, the Lord thy God accept thee. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you about verse 24 before I read it. Verse 24 is biblical proof that David was not a Baptist. It is the one verse in the Bible that proves he was not a Baptist. It says this, and the king said unto Araunah, nay, but I will surely buy it of thee at a price, neither will I offer burnt offerings unto the Lord my God of that which doth cost me nothing. That is not Baptist doctrine. We want to find some way to give and not have it cost us anything. I mean, Baptists, man, we're after free. And you know what David said? Think about this. He's going to offer his oxen and his implements for me. And David said, no. He said, I am crossing this line. I am not standing back here. If God's going to get something, I want it to cost me something. Look what it says. Middle of the verse. So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 shekels of silver, and David built there an altar unto the Lord and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. So the Lord was entreated for the land, and the plague was stayed from Israel. Guys, the first line I want to talk to you about is I think we draw a line between us and really getting some things done for God. I really do. The first thing I will talk to you about, I won't talk to you long about, but it's because I mentioned it to you. Don't draw a line between you and any church service your church is having. I mentioned earlier this week, some folks come Sunday morning, never show up Sunday night, never show up Wednesday night, never show up in a midweek or any kind of a special meeting. Guys, don't draw a line between you and being in church. I think you ought to be here every single time the doors are open. You know, I have a lot of meetings, and a pastor will get up and he'll say at the beginning of the meeting, he'll say, now, you come every night expecting a blessing or you won't get one. And I've never thought you ought to do that. I think you ought to just show up. I think you ought to be here because the doors are open, the lights are on. It doesn't matter if I'm here, somebody else is here. Maybe you get a surprise. I can tell you, June 14th, 1970, I went to an independent Baptist church. I've been going there for 3 months. I walked in that door that day. I was not expecting a blessing. I got saved. What a surprise. What an eternal surprise. And so guys, don't draw a line between you and any kind of a church service for God. Show up for Sunday morning, show up for Sunday night, show up for Wednesday night, show up for the Tuesday and Wednesday or Monday and Tuesdays when you have a meeting like this. If your church is having it, you know, you guys all say, God bless me, speak to my heart, and then you won't show up when this is the only place He's going to do it. Don't tell me, I go to the grocery store because I want God to talk to me. The God of your stomach. I mean, that's the only God that's going to talk to you, okay? Guys, this is the one place that God put on this earth where you could sit down. You know how I view people coming to church? And this is why I always ask God to bless the people that come. Not with anything I say. I say this, when you guys, any one of you, here's what you voluntarily did tonight. When you walked in here, you walked into a spiritual free fire zone. You walked in here where the Holy Spirit, every one of you is now, you are exposed to the Holy Spirit taking a shot at your heart tonight. Isn't that right? God bless you. I mean that. God bless you for that. When people come forward, you know how I view that? I view somebody coming down here, taking their heart and saying, okay, Lord, I'm opening a door, take what you want. Whatever space I haven't given you, you take it. And I always ask Him, I just say, God, go in the door. They know which door they open. They know what corner of their heart needs swept out. You just go in there and take some ground for yourself. So guys, I think you ought to be in church every single time the doors are open. I am seeing it in our churches, guys, King James, Bible-believing, independent Baptist churches, and we are cutting God short. We want to get rid of midweek service. We want to get rid of Sunday night service. We want to come in and start at 7 and be done at 8. I know churches, they start at 7, they're done at 8. Well, I think if God was going to speak, He could get it done in an hour. You wouldn't go to a movie that was an hour. You wouldn't go to a football game that was an hour. Did you ever stop and think about it that a football game is an hour? 4 15-minute quarters, and it's 3 hours long. Which means, right? You know what that means? That when you watch a football game, 2 hours are going to be wasted. Right? And you don't mind that at all. Somebody take 2 hours of your life and burn it like money. And you don't mind at all. Then you come in here. I'm sorry, guys. I know I preach long. I don't do it on purpose. I don't say I'm going to preach long. But I don't apologize for it either. But guys, we want to cut God short. We want to say, get it said and get it done. And don't give me this stuff about, the children. I watch people say, you preach too long, and then after service, they're talking for 45 minutes out in the vestibule. Or they go home. You know what it is? You don't want to miss your 9 o'clock program. I mean, you're sitting here right now going, well, I'll go, but I want to be back in time for, we can get ready for revival tonight, can't we? Guys, what I'm telling you is, don't draw a line between you and any church service. The second area, don't draw a line between a pittance and tithing. You say, what's a pittance? Anything less than 10%. Guys, the tithe is 10% of your income off the top. I don't believe this. I don't believe that tithing is giving. I don't believe you can give God a tithe. You know why? Because you can't give somebody that which is already theirs. Could you imagine if I told you, preacher, there's a silver Ford outside. I'm going to give that to you. He'd say, hey, stupid. That is already mine. I can't give him what is already his. Now, if I said this, preacher, there's a GMC truck out, just an illustration. There's a GMC truck out there. Now I'm giving him something that's mine, right? Guys, the first tenth, you can't give God. I don't think tithing is giving. Here's what I call tithing. It is getting God's money out of your wallet. You know what I don't want God to do? I don't want God to do an inventory of my wallet and find any of His money there. And I think He's got the serial numbers memorized. All right? Guys, I think, so here's what you do. You give less than 10%, and you're giving Him a pittance. And some people even do it with flourish. Yeah, the offering's going to go by, and this guy will pull out a $100 bill. And he kind of, okay, I'm going to put this in the offering now. And we go, did you see Brother so-and-so? He gave $100. What you don't know is he owes God $500 tithe. And so he's not giving God 100. He's being very flourishy about stealing 400. And that's what he's doing. Well, preacher, I can't afford to tithe. You can afford to tithe. Let me ask you a question. If you have $1, do you have a dime? Well, that was overwhelming. Either you know where this is gone or you all went to public education. Okay, let me say it this way. If you have $1, you have a dime. And if you got $10, you've got $1. And if you got $100, you got $10. And if you got $1,000, you've got $10. Because right there is where your faith gets weak, isn't it? But guys, I think you ought to tithe. I had this happen. Some years ago, some lady sent us a check. Now, I'm not trying to get people to send checks to Sam Gipp, 905 Woodlawn Avenue Northwest, Canton, Ohio, 44708. But it's G-I-P-E-P. But this lady sent us a check. Had my name spelled right. That was remarkable. Had a wonderful amount. And then you know where it says memo? You know what it said? Tithe. Oh, man. See, I think your tithe belongs in your church. And I looked at that. You know what I had to do with that check, don't you? Yep. When I cashed it down at the bank, I held my thumb over the word tithe. Man, I am telling you, no conviction whatsoever. It works. It works. Out of sight, out of mind. Nah, I didn't rail off this lady on this lady. I sent it back to her. I said, ma'am, I appreciate you thinking of us. Send us a check. But I said, I believe your tithe belongs in your local church. I really do. Guys, listen very carefully. I am an evangelist. I don't want your tithe. I want the other 90%. I know what you got left. But guys, I believe your tithe goes here. So here's what you do. You give less. Now look, there's no other nice way to say this. If you don't tithe, you're a thief. You're a thief. Well, preacher, that's not nice. Okay, you're a nice thief. But you're still a thief. You don't have to answer me for that. I'm not going to judge you. But don't you understand that the one you stole from, you are going to stand in front of? It's okay then I'm going to tithe. Good. Don't draw a line between tithing and giving. Right. You remember where it says over in Acts, it's more blessed to what? It doesn't say more blessed to tithe. So that can't be the 10%. That's got to be in that 90%. And here's the problem, guys. When you're tithing, that just means you're not going to answer for stealing from God. But if you never give, you never get to do anything. You guys never get to do anything. You never give anything to God. So, don't draw a line between tithing and giving. Don't draw a line between giving and sacrificial giving. You know what sacrificial giving is? That's where you give and it hurts you. Which for some of you, we're back to tithing. But, no, look, Kath and I have been on the road for 29 years. 29 years, we have not had a guaranteed weekly income. We don't have a guarantee. I'm not a staff evangelist where a church gives me a weekly check, whether I have a meeting or not, or anything like that. We don't know. And every now and then, the Lord tells us to give somebody some money. I'll tell you who we gave some money to. You knew him, Marty White. Remember Marty White? Rochester, great guy. And he went over to Mongolia. And the Lord just laid it on our heart one day, and we sent him $500. See, you got $500? No, I gave it to Marty White. But we sent him his $500 just to help his ministry. And he wrote back, and here's what he said. He said, that money was such a blessing because he said, I have a church here, but they had no place to meet. Now, you know what they meet in over there? They meet in a building called a gur. And it looks basically like a cake. It's round with a little bit of a dome top, yak skin, covered, and it's called a gur. And he said, you gave us $500. That was just enough to buy a gur for our church to meet in. Now, how would you guys like this? How would you guys just walk around saying, I bought a church they're building? You know what he said? He said, we call it the Gipp gur. Guys, man, I've never been to Mongolia. Don't know that I want to go to Mongolia, but what a blessing. Then he wrote me about a year or two later. He said, I just write to let you know that the church that's been meeting in the gur has raised enough money, and we have built a building on a concrete foundation. They don't need the gur anymore. I'm going to another village, and I'm starting another church, and we're taking the Gipp gur with that to do that. Guys, see, if only you tithe, you don't get to do that. And any one of you could do that. Oh, preacher, I couldn't give 500. No, you couldn't, because you're greedy. See, you want to say you couldn't give 500 because you don't have it. Y'all got it. Y'all got it. Yeah, you do. Well, look, you know what our problem is? And I am not telling you, give your house payment, give your car payment, give your health insurance payment. I'm not telling you that at all. You know what's happened in this country? Our toys have gotten expensive. You know, there was a day in this country when if you wanted to have fun, you went bowling. And if you became a fanatic, you bought your own bowling ball, a bag to carry it in, bowling shoes, and a glove for one hand. A glove on one hand. Which brings me to this. Do you know what the late Michael Jackson and the Cleveland Indians outfield have in common? They both wore a glove on one hand for no apparent reason. But now, let me ask you something. How much can you spend? How much do you think you could spend on a bowling ball, a bag, a pair of shoes? The glove had to be half price. But now you're paying $1,500 just for your golf driver. You're paying $20,000 for your four-wheeler. You're paying $15,000 or $20,000 for your jet ski. And then a missionary needs money, and you know what you say? Well, we'll sure pray for them. Yeah. Well, go have the jet ski, guys, but boy, are you missing it. Yeah. You are missing. You know what your problem is? You drew a line. And don't draw a line between you and sacrificial giving. Don't draw a line between talking about the Bible and loving the Bible and claiming to be a defender of the Bible, and then you don't know any Bible. Look, guys, God gave you the book, but He didn't give it to you so that you could hang your family tree in it. Some of your family probably needs hung, not necessarily in the Bible. He didn't give it to you so you could smash the first rose from the first date you ever had. He gave you this book to read and to study. I think it was my second year in Bible college, and I was painting houses. And I'm in this den, brand new houses. We were going through a whole neighborhood. And I'm in this den. I'm finishing off the ceiling of it, varnishing. And the only other guy in the house was an electrician who happens to be in the den. He's up on his ladder. He's putting a ceiling fan in. And so I'm going to take advantage. And I said, hey, he's about 2 steps up. I said, can I ask you a question? He goes, yeah. I said, if you died right now, do you know for a fact you go to heaven? And I am telling you, man, this guy's face just lit up like the sun. He goes, I sure do. I said, are you saved? He said, I sure am. I said, man, that is so good. Isn't that nice? And he says, let me ask you a question. I said, okay. He said, if you died right now, do you know for a fact you'd go to heaven? Now, guys, I'm not offended by somebody asking me that question. I don't quite understand somebody who I just asked that question to. I mean, what does he think my response is going to be? No, I just want to see who's going to be in hell with me. What did he think I asked him for? So he says, if you died right now, do you know for a fact you'd go to heaven? I said, yeah. He goes, are you saved? I said, yeah, man, I sure am. He goes, now, wait a minute. He said, by saved, I mean, have you trusted Jesus Christ as your personal Savior and had the baptism of the Holy Ghost and had the initial evidence of speaking in tongues? Because if you haven't spoken in tongues, you're not saved. I said, no kidding. He said, no kidding. I said, let me ask you another question. I said, you don't have to quote these exact word for word. And you don't even have to give me the exact book, chapter, and verse. But I said, give me 5 verses in the Bible that say, in essence, not word for word, just basically this truth. Give me 5 verses in the Bible that say, ye must speak in tongues to be saved. He said, I can't. I said, why not? He said, there's not 5 verses in there that say that. I said, okay, give me 1. He said, I can't. I said, why not? He said, there's not 1 verse that says that. I said, man, is your God stupid? And the guy like to fell off his leg. He said, what? I said, your God is stupid. He said, why would you say that? I said, because the only way to get to heaven is to trust Jesus Christ as your personal Savior and have the baptism of the Holy Ghost and have the initial evidence of speaking in tongues, right? He said, right. I said, okay, you know that, and now I know that. And I said, your God couldn't put it 1 time clear in the Bible. And then I gave him 5 verses in the New Testament, quoted them for him, that salvation was by grace. Can you give somebody 5 verses that salvation is by grace? And if not, why not? You guys a bunch of Baptists? Okay, could you give anybody 5 verses that shows that when they are saved, they need to get baptized? Right after they're saved. Oh, I don't think there's 5 in there. That's because you're spending all your time learning something that is not important. Guys, don't draw a line between carrying this book and saying you believe this book and saying you love this book, and then draw a line between getting into this book. Don't draw a line between claiming Jesus Christ and telling the lost world about Him. You do understand, I said it yesterday, you live in a heathen nation now. You say, that's horrible, that's terrible. Yeah, but there's one upside. Know what it is? There's a whole generation, they're glad to hear it. You got a bunch of people now, there's a bunch of high school kids, they aren't prejudiced against it. They're not even under conviction. They don't even understand. There are literally some fields that are now coming white unto harvest in this country because we now have a generation or two who have never heard the gospel. They don't have a concept. They weren't brought up in church. There was no Bible given to them in school. They are a blank sheet of paper, and you could go there and start writing on that sheet of paper. Guys, don't draw a line between claiming Christ, don't get me wrong when I say this word, and sharing Christ and telling people about Him. So guys, I think what we do is we draw a line. I'm going to tell you, don't draw a line between you and doing anything for God. Remember this. In Genesis chapter 7, every person on the globe, but 8 of them, drew a line between them and what God had for them. And every one of them died and went to hell. I want you to go to Daniel. Daniel chapter 1. In Daniel chapter 1. Now, you know the story of Daniel. You know that Daniel is, I say it this way, he's here under protest. He is basically a captive. He's not a prisoner. He's not in prison, but he was a captive. He was taken as a child from the nation of Israel. And now he's a servant of Nebuchadnezzar. I don't want to go into too much depth with this because I'm not trying to get you to confess anything, and I'm not going to confess anything. We're not talking about sin. But I think we have all remained quiet when we shouldn't have one time or another. I think we have all gone along with something that we probably shouldn't have gone along with. Maybe at work, maybe in your family. You know, I had a brother-in-law, and he smoked, and we never let, 2 places. I never let anybody smoke in my house. I never let anybody smoke in my car. Kathy, outside. Anyway, but I told my brother-in-law one time, I said, Jim, if you come over, I don't care if you smoke. That was a big deal for me. He still never came over. Never got saved. He died without Christ. You say, well, you probably shouldn't have done it. Maybe I shouldn't have done it. What I'm saying is we've all just not spoken up when we should have. Here's what I think. This young kid is working for Nebuchadnezzar. Don't you think there's been some times when this little Jewish kid went along with something he shouldn't have gone along with? Maybe should have spoken up and he didn't. And now it comes to this in verse 8. But Daniel purposed in his heart. And here's what's happened. King Nebuchadnezzar said, it's kind of like Queen Michelle said, I'm going to tell you what to eat. Right? Yeah. He said, you're going to eat the food I eat, and you're going to drink the booze that I drink. But it says this in verse 8, but Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now guys, you know I believe the book. You know I love the book. You know I don't go to Greek or Hebrew for any kind of authority, correct? But I got to tell you something. You see the word meat in that verse? I looked at the Hebrew. And the Hebrew word for meat in that verse is quiche. I ain't eating that stuff either, okay? But here's what Daniel said. You know, I think he's gone along and gone along, gone along. You know what funny he said? You know what? I'm not going any farther. I draw the line right here. I'm not crossing this line. I am not doing that. You know, I think we don't draw any lines. Not anymore. We don't draw any lines. Guys, we need to draw some lines. We don't draw any kind of line between us and this world, us and whatever the world offers. Let me give you an example. I'm a man. You probably didn't know that. But let me explain. I come from the age, and some of you too, you young guys, you may not know this, but when I was your age, there was no color in the world. The whole world was black and white. I know, I saw it on television. And anybody here remember the old Westerns where the guy would shoot the guy and he'd go, "Oh, you got me." And he took his hand down and there wasn't even a bullet hole. There wasn't. You had to pretend that there was a bullet hole. I mean, that is low tech. Okay? So, but I'm a man and I like that stuff. Ladies, look, here's how this goes. It's just a man thing. But if it was Little Women go down to the mall and gun the place, I'd probably read the book. If it was Anne is sniping from her nest in the Green Gable, that would pique my interest, okay? I'm not interested in her chocolate chip cookie recipe. And so I'm back here and the guy goes, "Oh, you got me." And there's not even a bullet hole and I'm with it. I am with it. And then somebody in Hollywood said, "You know, if we just take a little magic marker and draw a spot here," and the guy goes, "Oh, you got me." When he takes his hand down, they'll see the bullet hole. This was called high tech. We went from low tech to high tech. It was a vast leap. Still black and white. And so I'm back here with the no bullet hole, and Hollywood goes to the bullet hole. And I stand back here with no bullet hole stuff. So I stepped right up with the bullet hole. Then somebody in Hollywood said, "You know, if we put a ketchup pack right here, we put that little magic marker spot, and the guy goes, 'Oh, you got me.'" Man, I'm telling you, I can remember us guys going, "You could see the blood." Do you know that in the black and white Alfred Hitchcock Psycho, that movie, when that lady's killed, you know what that blood is? They tried something red and it didn't work. It's Hershey's chocolate syrup. That is what they use, because it's black and white. Who's going to know? You know, you got blue bloods, red bloods. She was a brown blood. But anyways, okay, so now look here. I left the no bullet hole and I stepped up to the bullet hole because Hollywood wanted me to. And then Hollywood went to the blood spot and I moved right up with them because I want to be cutting edge. And then somebody in Hollywood came up with the exit wound. Guy must have been a butcher. Had an affinity for hamburger. Because now you see little in and big out. And he's like, you'd see these people, boom. But you know who we were? Yeah. And I stepped right up there. And they kept going here. And every time Hollywood would take a step, I'd follow them. And they'd take a step, and I'd follow them. I'm going to follow them right into this. And Hollywood would take another step, and I would follow them. Now, let me explain what I mean when I use this term, guy movies. I'm not talking about pornographic movies. I'm talking about movies, you know, Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Willis, where things get blown up, people get shot, usually the right people. That's a guy movie. Okay, it's got to be a lot of explosions, fast cars, people getting gunned down. Kind of like a Baptist business meeting. But here's what happens. Every time I anchor here, Hollywood takes me another step. And guys, we don't go to the movies, believe it or not. We don't go to the movies. But we all see them, don't we? Like, come on, man, you all see them. You might see it 6 months after it's out. You might see it a year after it's out because it's on TV. But if you don't go to movies, you all see them. And now, I went from black and white, no bullet hole, to where aliens are ripping the guy's heads off and eating them. And now there's two kinds of movies. There's one, I really believe this. I believe the writers in Hollywood say this. You know the word. Let's see how many times we can say this word and make those Christians listen to it. And you don't turn it off. You just try to hit the remote in time. The other one is they're not satisfied until they see the blood splatter on the camera lens. I mean, it is an absolute butcher shop. And I don't even know what it was. We're watching this one night, and 5 minutes into it, I am telling you, it's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a nursery. I mean, it is horrible. And in 5 minutes, I looked over at my wife, and I said, you know something, babe? Guy movies have passed me by. But that's what they always did. When they had no bullet hole, they passed me by and went to a bullet hole, so I stepped up. Then they went to the blood, and I stepped up. Then they went to the exit wound, and I stepped up. And they went to full auto, and I stepped up. Now they want me to go farther. You know what I said? I turned it off. I said, I'm not going any farther. He said, oh, you drew a line right there? No, there I realized how far I'd come. So I took way back here and drew the line. There are just some, when things come out, I don't say, well, I can wait till it gets on TV and I'll watch it, because I don't want to see what it is. I don't have to see it, okay? I don't have to subject myself to the gore and the garbage. Could I ask you men a question? I do want to ask you this, guys. Who addicted us to blood? Who convinced us men that if we haven't seen 2 murders per hour, we haven't been entertained? Who convinced us that rape was entertainment? Who convinced us that watching somebody be horribly tortured was family entertainment? I'm going to tell you something. You gripe about preachers all you want. It was never a preacher did it. No preacher ever used those words in your living room. No preacher ever subjected your wife and your children to the illustrations that they see in your living room. Is that not right? And isn't it funny? Because you'll watch that stuff and you never get rid of your TV, and one time a preacher will say something and you leave and never come back. Because you got more grace with a bunch of perverts in Hollywood, New York, than you do with a man of God preaching out of the Word of God in the house of God. Where are you going to draw the line? You say, preacher, you tell me I should get rid of my DVDs? Nope. I don't think you ought to. I really don't. I'm telling you. You ready for this? When this service is over tonight at 11:30, I want you to go home and watch one. So you do? Mm-hmm. Get the bloodiest one you got. Get the one with the most torture. Get the one where they burn them alive or gouge out their eyes. Oh, preacher, don't say that. What do you mean don't say it? You watch it. Yep. You call it entertainment. Is that not the word you use? I said, go home and watch it tonight. And here's what I hope. I hope maybe for the first time in your life you actually see it. Then do whatever you think. I'm telling you, where are you going to draw the line? Let me ask you this. Where do you draw the line? Do you draw the line between flirting and adultery? I never thought I would see in this country. I don't do a lot on the internet, but I got to get my email, and MSN is my home page. You say, why? Because it is. I don't know what you do, so I go through it. And here's this. It has these news things. I'm a news person, so I'm watching these news stories. And it'll have a story, 10 ways to flirt at work. What? 10 ways to flirt at work? Surefire lines that'll help you score. What am I reading here? Guys, you say, well, it's just flirting. Oh yeah, it's just tempting to be immoral. Where are you going to draw the line? You say, well, I'm not going to. Well, a lot of people that weren't going to did. You say, how did it happen? They started out by flirting. Maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you ought to draw a line. You want to flirt with somebody? Flirt with your husband or your wife. I'm not married. Then put it on hold, honey. And wait. And wait as long as you have to. But I'm telling you, you got to draw the line somewhere. Let me ask you a question. Do you believe? I do. Do you believe in villains? Come on, man, there's villains. Are there not villains? Okay, villain. The Greek word for villain is demokrato. Anyway, I believe in villains. Because you got to have villains, because that's how you got the good guy. If you don't have a bad guy, you don't have a good guy. I believe in villains. In fact, I like the days when the villain wore the black hat, good guy wore the white hat, and the good guy always won. So good. I'm glad we agree on that. You accept villains. You accept witches? Oh, no, I'm not talking about evil green people with warts on their nose. I'm talking about cute little ladies who wiggle their nose and just make us all laugh. They made some movie about a witch, and I'm talking to a Christian, and they said, I'm going to go see that. I said, you're going to see a movie about a witch? And they said, well, yeah, but she's a good witch. I said, oh, you mean she's a dead witch? He goes, no. I said, well, the Bible says, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. So if she's a good witch, she's a dead witch. And if she's not a dead witch, she's not a good witch. Now some people go, well, preacher, it's just harmless entertainment. Okay, look, I'm not telling you. I'm just asking, do you accept witches? That's your business. I don't. Do you accept sorcerers and warlocks? No, not these guys with his big ornate horns and evil faces. You know, some little boy with great big round glasses flying around on a broom. A broom? He's flying around on a broom and no buzzers went off for you? Nothing woke you up? Now, guys, I've never watched those Harry Potter things, but I'm going to tell you I know exactly what the format is. It's the good witches against the bad witches, and it's the good sorcerer against the bad sorcerer. And you know what some of you end up doing? You're watching those movies going, and somewhere in the movie, it looks like the bad sorcerer is going to destroy the good sorcerer, and you're going, oh man, I hope the good sorcerer wins. Whoa, did you hear what you thought? Man, didn't somebody get a victory on you? That's okay, that's okay. You can have sorcerers if you want. You know, they got a movie out there, never saw it, where the hero is a son of the devil. Yeah, it's called Hellboy. Never saw it. He's just a big, nice, all-around nice guy, just kind of red. He's even had his horns cropped up. I mean, you always know if they've had their horns cut off, they're okay. And I will guarantee you, somewhere in that movie, he's helping the good guys, and his dad's bad guys are just about to destroy him, and some stupid, mouth-breathing, drooling Christian is watching a movie about the son of the devil going, oh, I hope the son of the devil survives and wins. And somewhere in Hollywood, some guy goes, oh, man, got another one. A Jesus person said that. Man, we got him. It's okay, I don't care. Look, guys, I believe in villains. And if you want witches, have your witches. If you want sorcerers, have your sorcerers. And if you want to root for the son of the devil, that's fine. But listen very carefully. If you are entertained by vampires, you are not right with God. You said, preacher, you're judging. Absolutely. It's my job. And you know something, guys? I got that one right. I want to ask you a question. What is it about somebody sucking somebody else's blood that you would define as entertaining? What on earth were you thinking? You know how I knew this country was doomed? It wasn't in 2008, November, when Obama got in the White House. It was about 2 weeks afterwards. We had just, for the first time, voted in a guaranteed communist, a Muslim, and a non-American citizen. And this nation, instead of being in mourning and literally being in sackcloth and ashes saying, what have we done? 2 weeks after his election, I'm looking at the news, and it shows a theater and a line of teenage girls that goes down the street and around the corner, and it said, here's a line of 2,000 girls going to see a romantic vampire movie. Guys, I didn't know you could use romantic and vampire in the same sentence. Well, it's just, I know. It's good vampires against bad vampires. And I mean, if I'm going to root for a vampire, at least I'm going to root for a good one. It's good to have Christian principles and good Christian values, isn't it? Guys, I'm going to say it again. If you're entertained with books and movies and DVDs and whatever about vampires, you are not right with God. Don't get in my face after this service is over. Don't you say, well, you're judging. You better believe I'm judging. And I'm telling you, you're going to stand in front of your Savior, and He's going to say, what was your big thing about blood? Because you sure didn't tell anybody about mine. I was preaching in Chicago, and I made that statement. I said, what is about somebody sucking somebody else's blood that you find entertaining? And after church, it was a good man. Not a bad man, good man. And he came up to me in the foyer, and he goes, oh, brother. He goes, you won't believe this. I said, what? He goes, do you know what I did today? I said, no. He said, when I was in college, I had to read Bram Stoker's Dracula as required reading. Isn't it funny how college always requires you to read something that defiles you? Catcher in the Rye. It's always got to be something vile, something filthy, something evil. And he said, I had to read Bram Stoker's Dracula because it's a classic. It was a classic, and I had to read it. Okay. And he said, I just bought another copy of it today to reread it because it was a classic. And he said, and then you went and said that. Oh, guys, if he thought I was going to go, oh, sorry, it was really the wrong reaction. I said, oh, fine. I said, just one question. He goes, what? I said, what is it about somebody sucking somebody else's blood that you find entertaining? He said, well, brother, it's a classic. Well, guys, don't they have pictures of women with no clothes on and call it art? Yeah. So as long as you call it art, it's okay, right? Yeah. Must be. And if you call it a classic, you can read anything you want. He said, but what's wrong with it? And his 9-year-old son is standing right here. I said, you know what's wrong with it? I said, he, pointing at his son, he doesn't see any difference between your vampires and his vampires. And he goes, oh, he's not looking at that stuff. I said, that's what you think. What a naive father to think that his 9-year-old boy is not looking at those vampire things. And so the next night before service, he walks in and he goes, guess what I did today? I said, I don't know. Bit somebody. He said, I took it back. I said, good. Good for you. I didn't say good for me. I didn't have a victory. See, when we're talking, I'm the only one that knew why he bought Bram Stoker's Dracula. He didn't even know why he bought it. He had no idea why he bought that book. I know why he bought that book. Well, he bought it because, well, first off, if it was bad and you read it in college, why do you have to read it a second time? But here's why he bought it. He didn't buy it because it was a classic. He was going to read it. When he got done with it, he did not frame this question yet, but here's the question that was going to come into his mind. So how does that compare to Twilight? I guess I'll just read Twilight just to see how... Look, if I'd have said, this is what you're going to do, he'd have said, preacher, that is not my intent. And I'll guarantee you it was not his intent. But as sure as I stand here, he would have got done reading Bram Stoker's Dracula, and the first thing he'd have said is, well, what is that in comparison to what's out there now? Guys, I'm going to tell you. Now, let me tell you this. I will not go into detail. I cannot, in a mixed congregation, go into detail. I am not a believer that you have to listen to rock music so you can preach against it. I was in Bible college. When I was in Bible college, the bad movie was Rosemary's Baby. I know what it's about, never seen it, not interested. And a guy who was a couple of years behind me, he said, I'm going to go see Rosemary's Baby. I said, we don't go to movies. Why are you going to go see Rosemary's Baby? He said, well, I want to preach against it. And he said, I can't very well preach against it if I don't know what it's about. What do you think? I said, well, I hope you ever want to preach against drug addiction. I hope you ever want to preach against adultery. And if you ever want to preach against queers, I don't want to be around for the research. Guys. I don't listen to rock music so I can preach against it. You don't have to watch porn so you can preach against it. But here's what I did. Now, I'm a man. I'm in a motel. My wife ain't with me. Men don't watch commercials. They watch 2 football games simultaneously. Okay? We don't waste life on commercials. I call it practicing for the remote Olympics. A man's got the touch when the commercial comes on and he can go to the other game and come back to that one just as the commercial's over. Oh, look at it. I'm going to have that bronzed. So I'm watching this football game, and so I start, it's a commercial, and I'm going through to find another football game. And there was a 1-hour vampire program on. I don't believe you have to watch vampire stuff to preach against it. But here's what I told. Now let me explain this. God is my boss. He is my boss. I went to my boss and I said this. I said, Lord, your people, that's you guys, my people, are watching vampire stuff. How on earth can they justify it? I said, with your permission, I'm going to give 60 minutes of my life to this. That's all they're getting. I'm going to watch 60 minutes of this program to see what they see in it. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I didn't get 10 minutes into this and turned it off. You know how I know it was from hell? Because it was worse than my imagination. Do you know how bad your imagination is? You have to admit, you know what, some of you sitting here right now, you've seen stuff on your television that was worse than you could have imagined. How could you doubt it came from hell? And then you called it entertainment. You say, well, what do you think? I think somewhere you're going to have to draw the line. Because what's next? Oh, guys, you think, oh, they can't go any farther than that. I didn't think they'd go farther than warlocks. They found vampires. I'm telling you guys, they can go farther. And they're going to go farther. Wait till your favorite program has two men kissing in front of your wife and children. Then what are you going to do? I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to do what you've always done. You're going to be more loyal to your television set than you are to God. You know what you need to do? You need to draw a line. And probably you don't need to draw the line where you are. You probably don't need to say, I'm not going any farther. You are probably just like Daniel. You're probably like I was with the Guy films. You probably need to go, you know, not only should I not go there, but what am I doing here? I think I'll drive. Hey guys, let me tell you this. I may die watching black and white reruns of Bonanza. But that's better than what they got now. I don't have to see the next garbage pit that they're going to put out. I don't need to see it. You understand? I don't need to see the next thing that Hollywood is going to shovel into my living room. I'm asking you, where are you going to draw the line? You're going to have to draw the line someplace. Where are you going to draw the line? I'll tell you this and I'll be done. The Fight On books. I read a lot of books to get stories, and a lot of stories are interesting stories and entertaining stories, but they don't make the cut for the book. And I don't think this one made the cut, but it was an interesting story. Here's what it was. This guy he was a hunter, and he wanted a grizzly bear. So he contacted an Indian guide in Alaska. And what these guys do is they go out, they stake out the territory. They'll even maybe bait the bear, get him to where they know his timing. And then they'll bring a client and they'll say, you sit right here, bear come by, boom, boom, and you got your bear. So this guy flies to Alaska and the Indian guide meets him and he takes him out there. He's got himself a nice little hide. And he says, look, it's about 50 yards off. He said, you see those berries right there? He said, I'd say 45 minutes to an hour. He said, a big old grizzly is going to come out of those antlers right there. He's going to amble on down there and he's going to start eating those berries and he's going to give you a perfect broadside shot. And he's a trophy. You're going to get not a grizzly, you're going to get a trophy. Man, it was like the bear read the script. About 30 minutes, man, this big old silver tip come just sauntering down out of those antlers, came down to those berry bushes, started eating those berries, and gave this guy perfect broadside shot, heart shot. And so the Indian guy knew what to do. Man, quietly snap the safety off. He's got a round chambered. He brings that sight up, gets his shoulder where it needs to be. He looks down across that, puts that crosshairs right where that bear's heart is. Starts pulling some tension in on that trigger, and then releases. And then he goes, what's the matter? He goes, could I get a little closer? You want to get closer? Yeah, I'd like to get closer. He's the guy that's doing the paying. Okay. But now remember, there's now a bear in the neighborhood. And they're still downwind of it, but they really got out of that hide. And then they go to plan B, and they circle a little bit, and they get a little bit closer. And the Indian says, there he is. Take the shot. like to get a little closer. You want to get closer? Yeah, I'd like to get a little closer. Okay. So as stealthily as they can, he circles around again. Now, this Indian is closer to a live grizzly bear than he ever wanted to be. I don't know if you realize this, but a grizzly bear at full tilt will cover a quarter mile in 15 seconds. And when he gets to the end, he don't stop. So you're going the next quarter mile with him. And he says, take the shot. What is the matter? I'd like to get a little closer. You want to get closer? Yeah. I'd like to shoot him from right over there. Then he goes, oh, right over there? Yeah. Oh, yeah. You go. I stay. You know what that Indian was saying? I've already gone a lot farther than I should have. I didn't want to be this close. I've gone farther than I ever should have gone. I've come closer to this grizzly bear than I ever wanted to be. I ain't going no farther. You want to go? You go yourself. I'm going to tell you something, guys. I don't know what's next. I don't know if it's going to... Look, I won't even voice what it could be because it would be so vile. I don't know how it could be more vile than it is now. But I'm going to tell you that we are very close to being Sodom and Gomorrah now. And your television is going to bring more filth and more garbage into your house than you have ever imagined. And all I'm going to tell you is this. You go. But I'm staying. I know, I saw it. I just went too far. Oh, guys, I didn't go as far as some of you, but I just said, I see where they want me to go. I'm not going. And I didn't draw the line there. I stepped way back here, and I drew the line there. You know what I want you to do tonight? I want you to go home. I want you to watch your favorite vampire movie. Read your favorite vampire book. Watch something about rape or torture. The good family entertainment stuff. Just watch it. Maybe pop an extra bowl of popcorn and invite Jesus Christ sit down beside you while you watch it, because I'm sure he'd enjoy it too. But you know what I hope? I hope maybe for the first time in your life you see it. Because some of you are watching it and you aren't even seeing it. You know what I hope you say? I've already come farther than I ever... Daniel, I came farther than I ever wanted to come. I shouldn't have come this far, but I'm not going that far. You know what you're all going to have to decide one day? I'm not going that far. Now you watch. Gipp ain't going to make you choose. Hollywood's going to make you choose. New York City and the program is going to make you choose. And they're going to say, come a little closer. Try this. Wait till you see what we got planned for your family now. And you're going to have to go, I don't think I'm going another step. Then you ought to take a look where you are, and I'll bet you're going to realize, I need to take a step back and draw the line. I'm asking you one question tonight. Where will you draw the line? I'd like you to stand with your heads bowed. Your heads bowed and your eyes closed. Some of you have drawn a line between you and some kind of service for God. Step over that line like those brave souls in San Antonio did in 1835 and stepped into history. We look at them as some of the bravest men in the history of our nation. You know why? Because they stepped across the line. Some of you need to step across the line and get busy for God. And some of you need to go home and watch your movies. I'm telling you, I said watch them. I didn't say throw them away. I said watch them. Watch your movies, watch your vampires, watch your murders, watch your torture and watch your rape and all that good stuff that Hollywood dishes out for your family. Listen to all those wonderful vocabulary words they teach your children. I hope you hear every word. I hope you savor every drop of blood. I hope as you lay on your bed, you still hear the screams. You say, preacher, you're not being very nice. Hey, I didn't bring it into your house. I didn't sit your family down in front of it. Don't you get mad at me. But I hope you see it maybe for the first time in your life. I hope you see what you have. And maybe you'll say, we've come way too far. I'm not crossing this line. I'm not taking another step in that direction. Maybe we just ought to take a few steps back and draw a line and meet at the Ponderosa. Father, you know what I think of these people. I think as people go,